Ahead and hit that go live button. Hmm. Oh, hello there, everybody. Hi, Jason with the Green Country Agroforestry here. I was thinking, I was watching another show earlier today, and the way they've got their live stream set up, they will open up by having a clip playing in the background. So they'll go live, and there's going to be a clip playing in the background. I guess that way, the notifications will go out that they're going live, and everybody can get the notifications and go get their coffee or whatever it is, and then come sit down and they can all join in on the live stream at the same time, more or less. But there's just that like little buffer period. They have theirs set for like 20 minutes. That's an awful long time. I would say maybe 5 would be more than enough. But I was thinking about what in the world I would put in as a 5-minute buffer clip to show everybody before doing a weekly live stream. I don't know. You guys think that would be fun if I did like a little 5-minute clip at the beginning and just allow people to come in and get settled? Would that be cool? I thought it was an interesting idea. I don't know how it would work, but as it is right now, I'm talking about it instead of talking about tonight's topic because I'm just waiting for people to be able to get in and get through commercials and all that good stuff. So, hello, Vicky. Hello, Brian. Hello, Carolyn, Mary, Ken, and Brian again. Hey, he's awake this time. And another question I have on my mind is to pea or not to pea? This is a chickpea. I grew this, I think, year before last out there in the front yard. This was before the Moon Sprouts is with us tonight too. Good stuff Moon Sprouts has been putting out here recently. I've caught a few of Iris's videos, and she's knocking it out of the park. Good job. You're gonna put me out of work. So I planted these year before last, and last year, of course, the city came through and needed to hit her. Mary saying play the guitar. The city needed to put in a water main and needed to use our front yard to do it. So they dug up the front yard and they inverted the soil layers where we've spent the past few years very carefully adding organic matter and building it up to the point where it can grow stuff. And now it's clay to about 5 foot down. And then we've got our organic matter all the way down there at the bottom because they just flipped everything in about a 4 foot wide ditch, 4 foot wide channel. So I've been contemplating how I'm going to address this problem. And it's a unique position because I usually don't have the opportunity to deal with 100% clay soil, right? I have some clay in some areas. It's a clay substrate. That's fine. There's at least some organic matter there. And the other side, I've got lots of sand. I've got sandy soil, sand and silt, and then we've got clay up here. And now the clay is on the surface. And how do I fix this? I could haul in extra amendments and inputs and start working on it. And I have added some pelletized gypsum to start breaking that up. Whenever I put the fork into it to start working it, it was coming away in blocks. And you've seen one spot out there where I was doing that. I think it was last year I was doing that, putting in a little feature that would allow water to just get in and infiltrate into the soil there, and it was just coming out in solid blocks. So we have that again. Now it's all across the front where I was supposed to have a wonderful bank of flowers coming on in succession. We'd have the short Stella de Oros down here in the front, and they'd be boom, 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 boom. Oh, and Starlit Bethlehem and snowdrops right down there in the front too, because those are really short. They come on early. And then after those, you get the Stella de Oros, and here they go, boom, bright blooms all over the place. Those are the daylilies. And then a little bit taller daylily, the classic orange ones that we have in abundance, those would start popping. And then behind that would be the cannas even higher. And so it would be just this progression, boom, 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 not only in space, but in time as well. And it was just going to look really great. And of course, that got wrecked. There's no way it could happen. At this point, the excavation wound up killing off 2 hazelnut trees and finished off a Yupan holly and a pear tree that were kind of and it's teetering. Fortunately, that one gumi bush is still alive and it managed to make it. It's making fruit again this year, so that's good. But at the end of it, I've just got this 4 foot wide path that's nothing but clay. Gotta realize that mine is my fire brick clay, currently baked down 6 inches, cracking bad. Please send rain. Well, yeah, you want a nice, long, slow, and gentle misting there, like or maybe intermittent rain off and on for several days at a time, just enough to get it wet. Okay, and then we'll wait, let it soak in. Now enough to get it wet again. Let's wait, let it soak in, and then eventually it can start absorbing and holding more water. And sometimes it's like that. I had a little patch of soil in the back where I added water earlier today, and I watched the dust that was there float on the surface of the water and start wandering off. And like, oh gosh, we're in trouble here. That's dry. Um, so what do you do whenever you have very, very little soil, no soil at all, and you want to get started growing? Growing is the key word. New soil, growing good soil, because of course, if you have good soil, you can grow anything in it. Vicky is asking me if I'm ready for watercress yet. Not just yet, but probably by the end of the week. I've got to do some work on the tub on the side, and I got distracted today. Anyway, yeah, watch surface tension is not a joke. I was getting myself distracted. So you've got no soil. You want to grow good soil. How do you do it? And there's a couple of different ways. Obviously, we've mentioned bringing in inputs. I'm a big fan of horticultural. Horticultural means bringing in horticultural wood chips, arborist wood chips. Manure, if you can be certain that your manure source isn't contaminated, manure is good as well. Used to be you could bring in hay, but hay is too often contaminated these days. So you have to be careful where you're getting your inputs from. How about growing your inputs? Now, this is a novel idea. There are a lot of things that you would need to do to this solid clay structure here to get it in a condition where it's going to be useful to grow in. Can we produce those inputs right there on the spot? And oddly enough, yes, we can. I mentioned in the description that there's a tip of the hat to Masanobu Fukuoka. Masanobu Fukuoka. But really what got me started thinking in this line, really igniting it in my brain, was Stephan Sobkowiak talking about dandelions in his permaculture orchard. Pardon me. And he was talking about how dandelions are an indicator. The reason that they're there is because one of two reasons. Well, there's three. The big obvious one that applies to just about everything is nature doesn't want the ground to be bare. If at all possible, it wants something to cover the ground. And so the dandelion is doing that job. It's going, okay, I've got the ground, I'm holding it down. The second thing that it's doing is relieving compaction in the soil, because whenever the soil is compacted, there isn't enough air and water infiltrating through. Not enough life can live in the soil this way. So it's trying to alleviate the compaction, sitting down a deep taproot to alleviate compaction. And the third thing is extracting calcium from the subsoil and bringing it up into its leaves, and as its leaves die down, depositing that into the soil surface to bring calcium levels up, which helps other plants fight disease. Higher calcium level helps to fight disease. So those are the things that the dandelion was doing. And left to its own devices, the dandelion will fix all of these problems. And at this point, the dandelion doesn't want to grow there anymore. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So what this plant is actually doing is it is addressing problems in the soil and correcting them. And all we actually have to do to get good soil is to step back and do nothing and allow nature to do what it's going to do. Yes. But also, if we understand what the processes are and can aid or accelerate those processes, then we can be involved in the process. Hope that didn't sound as horrible as it sounded to my ears. Okay. Whenever I was getting the thumbnail for this, for today's stream, I went looking for a picture of a field. And the field I had in mind was something like the one that's in the picture behind me, where you have multiple different species. There's some sort of a helianthus there, down right here over my shoulder. That's mare's tail. The white flowers that are. Let me change hands here. That might be easier. The white flowers are right there. That is Queen Anne's lace or a wild carrot. So there's several different species that are growing here, and they're all doing different things in the soil. They all serve different purposes in the ecosystem. Now, I'm not entirely certain whether that helianthus there is a helianthus tuberosa, a Jerusalem artichoke, or if it's what we would call around here a black-eyed Susan, another kind of perennial helianthus asteraceae that just likes to grow in disturbed soil. I don't know. But all of these plants are doing things in the soil. And I would be willing to bet that underneath this, it's going to be a lot of clay and rock. And these plants are sitting here creating the ecosystem that everything else can be built upon. But these are very hardy species that nature put in. And they're going to do the work. The mare's tail, this, up over this shoulder right here, this little tiny plant here, mare's tail, it's going to take the silicon out of that clay matrix, the silica hydrate. It's going to deposit into its tissues, and then whenever it decays, it's going to transform that. Instead of being a silica hydrate, it's going to be a fine silt. So it's mixing in silt with the clay. The woodiness of the helianthus there is going to create organic matter. So it is building soil, but it could be faster. And since we know what we're looking for now, we can do things to help it along. All right, that's where we get in with Masanobu Fukuoka and cover cropping and selecting plants to work the soil for us. For example, big things that were working for him were buckwheat, daikon radish, probably turnips, clovers, alfalfas, fennel, dill, things of this nature. And I've included some of those as well in the experiment that we're working in the front yard. I'm reading here. I've got my notes. I know these are chaotic looking here. You see that? Can you read my chicken scratch? No, I can't either. All right. But each plant has a different purpose and it's doing something. For example, your daikon radish, I'll get to the buckwheat last. Your daikon radish is sitting here growing to up to 2 foot deep. So it's drilling deep down into the soil, all the way down into the subsoil, and sometimes getting, up as big as my wrist. It's huge. So it's creating this huge channel, a spike, thunk, straight down into that clay, into the substrate. And whenever it decays away, this is a hole that fills with organic matter. This is a repository for water. It's a place where life can spring up and start spreading out and converting that clay into active, biologically active living soil. So the daikon radish, if you don't harvest it and you just allow it to rot back into the landscape, did something amazing for you. All right, what else? Turnips, also sort of the same thing, loosening up the soil and providing a source of nutrition. Something I've decided to add that's a little bit different is sugar beets. And I have them in this bucket right behind me. And then I realized I have the bucket covered up with with the green screen. I went ahead and got sugar beets, and this little teensy, when you think you probably can't even see that, this tiny little thing that I'm putting up here to the camera, that is a little coated sugar beet seed that I got from a company that produces seed for feed plots and stuff like that. So I put that along with daikon radish and with buckwheat. And what the sugar beet is going to do is, okay, imagine this. If you want to really supercharge your soil and get it going, I mean, really get it going good, you have to feed that soil microbial life, and that means sugar. Typically, you would go and get horticultural molasses, mix it with water, spray it over the area that you want to encourage the microbes to grow in, and then you've managed to increase your soil microbial activity, and you've made your soil a lot richer, sweetened your soil. But if I'm growing sugar beet and I don't harvest all the sugar beets, then whenever they're done, they will add their sugar to the soil. That will feed the microbial life. And I've managed to grow the source of sugar that I'm using to feed the microbes instead of having to go and buy it. or produce it from somewhere else. It's being produced right there on the premises. And while it is doing so, it's also working on loosening up the soil. Okay. So that was daikon radish, sugar beet, and these two are your main what I'm using for the main tillage vegetables. I do have one more that I'm thinking of adding into the mix, and that one's a carrot. You notice the where is it? Right there. The Queen Anne's lace that's in the wild meadow. Well, that's a wild carrot. So we could also include a carrot into the mix, and it could be an ornamental carrot if you wanted to have an ornamental carrot. It doesn't necessarily have to be an edible carrot, but if you can get to the point where a carrot can grow in your soil and isn't stunted, then I think you've made it. So the carrot will wind up being an indicator species for you. You spread that with your mix, and the year that comes along that you go when the carrot is getting ready to be done with its life cycle for the year, you go to pull it up and see if you've got a root or not. If it comes out as a nice whole carrot, you know you've accomplished your goal. You've managed to rehabilitate your soil. So the carrot winds up serving a purpose in there. The other purpose that the carrot has is the same as fennel and dill, which we're going to also be putting into the seed mix. Fennel and dill provide lots of tiny little flowers, which are great for pollinators, but most specifically the hoverflies and the parasitic wasps. So you add these things to your mix, and you're helping to support the other life that you need for your biome. All right, what else do we have in here? Amaranth and borage. Now, amaranth and borage are two of the things that I like to include in fertilizer mixes if I'm growing stuff to make fertilizer out of, because amaranth is good for getting phosphorus out of the soil, and borage is good for getting potassium. You add to that clover and what do you have here? A couple of different kinds of alfalfa. Then you've got nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus being produced on the property that you're going to be needing these things for, instead of having to, once again, import it in from somewhere else. Let's see. The alfalfa also has the ability to provide growth hormone to various plants that are growing whenever it's decomposing. Mary is asking if our violets are blue or purple. They are purple. We have purple violets. Here we go. Icky. So all these things work together, and I'm getting ready to put them all together in a way that makes sense. I got off track when I was saying I was looking for a field like what I'm describing, multiple different species, all of them together, and creating this very wild, bucolic looking scene that you have here, a wild looking meadow, but an intentionally wild meadow, each plant doing something specific. I couldn't find a picture. This one is the closest approximation I could find that was really like what I wanted to describe, even though it's not a perfect depiction, because every other picture of a field that I looked at was a picture of cosmos or sunflowers or lavender or poppies or corn or wheat or barley. Now, there was some variation. There were different colors of cosmos in the picture of a field full of cosmos. There were different colored poppies in a field full of poppies. But as far as there being different types of plants in a polyculture, there really wasn't a picture like that I could show you. I guess we're going to have to grow it and then take a picture of it so you can see what it looks like. Right. All right. I mentioned I was putting safflower and sunflower in the mix. Okay. So we have something for everybody in here. Let me get these seeds moved over to the side so I can actually read my notes. We have something for everybody. We've got our nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium accumulators or producers in the form of clovers and alfalfa, amaranth, and borage. That takes care of your macronutrients. Then we've got support in the form of dill, fennel, and carrot giving us all of those beneficial predatory insects that we want to have to maintain this habitat and keep it more or less free from being overrun by pests, because it will be if we don't make room for the predators. Okay, after that, we've got our tillage radish and sugar beet, which are both listening soil and trying to add additional sugars to the soil to feed the microbiome. Those are good. Sunflower and safflower are for feeding the birds, which, much like the predatory insects that the fennel and dill and the carrot, the Queen Anne's lace, we're taking care of. The sunflower and safflower is going to be helping take care of the birds that are going to come in to also help contribute to the biome. But they have one other purpose. You see, what would make this really great is if we were able to get some charged biochar and work that into our clay soil. Wouldn't that be good? I think it would be good if we could get some biochar, charge it up, and work it into that soil. But this is, of course, more inputs. But hey, remember this plant over here, the helianthus, that woody stalk that it has, that's a lot of carbon. You can make charcoal out of that. So you collect the stalks, assuming that you didn't need them for bioremediation after a nuclear war. Make charcoal out of them. Set the charcoal to the side. Harvest your alfalfa. Macerate the alfalfa, add water, add your charcoal. And wait. It'll go into its heat phase. The thermophiles are going to get it really, really hot. And then whenever it cools back down, it'll be done with heat in about a day or so. It doesn't take long. Then you've got some biochar. It's been charged with growth hormone from the alfalfa and lots of nitrogen. You could include some of the amaranth and some of the borage into that if you wanted to add a fully balanced fertilizer. Then you want to do one more thing, and this is the secret sauce. Take your charcoal that you've charged by decomposing your alfalfa in it, and set it to the side. Hopefully, sometime during this this process, you've harvested a few of your sugar beets, because you're going to want the sugar in some of those sugar beets. You'll take that and you'll use it to grow a culture of lactobacillus, for example, or perhaps yeast. You might work on growing cultures of mycorrhizal fungi off of the sugars that are in your sugar beets. But in any case, you're going to want to grow a culture of effective microorganisms, which you will then add to your charged biochar, and then you can work it into your formerly clay field. And of course, once you've done that, the carbon, the charcoal that you've created, becomes organic matter permanently in the soil, and it becomes a host for microorganisms, a reservoir for water, and will be working nonstop to transform your clay into good, fertile soil. So there we go. Was that it? Yeah, that was it. Oh, I was going to mention what the buckwheat was for. There's one other component to this. Of course, we mentioned organic matter. And the buckwheat, really cool little pseudo cereal. It's a flour, very pretty flour, lots of them. Good for feeding the bees. Let me see here. Let me see if I can find one and pick it out here. No, that's radish seed again. Let me get one of these weird looking seeds up here. This is a buckwheat seed. All right, so there's a buckwheat seed, tiny little thing. It has, let's see if I can just. It has an unusual shape. You see that? It's got an unusual shape to it. But anyway, these guys, they act kind of like an organic sponge. If there's an excess of nitrogen in your soil, the buckwheat's going to soak it up. If there's an excess of phosphorus, same thing. Potassium, same thing. Buckwheat is a greedy little feeder. And anything it can get, it will take and it'll grow and it'll absorb into its biomass, which just means that whenever you grow a lot of buckwheat, you can now come along with your sickle, cut back some of the buckwheat, lay it down, and allow it to decompose in place. Or you can mix it into your compost, either or whatever floats your boat. But this allows you to time release that nutrition back into your soil instead of having it go into your soil in its soluble form and get washed out during a rain event. So part of putting the buckwheat in there is as a backstop to prevent a loss of fertility whenever you have more rain than usual, because the buckwheat will soak it up. It'll absolutely soak it up. Having intense feeding plants of any sort somewhere around your perimeter where before your water can escape from your property is a great way to just get every last bit of it that you can and not have it go down into the watershed. So anyway, you get this wide variety of seeds. And at the moment, let me read off what I've got in here. All right. We've got buckwheat. That's our sponge. Also, like I said, it's a pseudo cereal. You can make noodles out of it. It's great. Daikon radish, sugar beets. Are these things that I can eat? Absolutely, they are. Borage tastes like cucumbers. Pretty blue flowers. Great for the pollinators, and of course, it's a potassium accumulator. Can we eat that? We can. Safflower, great for salad oil. Good for feeding birds. Squirrels don't like it. Sunflower, also great salad oil. We can eat the kernels. You can eat the kernels of safflower too, but also great for the birds. So that feeds our birds and our bees and us too. Of course, biomass plant, the sunflower and safflower and the stalks. That's biomass, great for making your charcoal with. We have amaranth. Once again, you can eat amaranth. It's a great, great seed to save for microgreen sprouting. Pretty decent sized stalks on amaranth too, if you're looking for another feedstock for making biochar. Red clover, white clover. These are both, I picked out the perennial versions of the clovers because I would like for them to remain as a ground cover year in, year out in the places where I'm not going to have to disturb the soil again. If I don't have to disturb the soil, having patches of clover there is great. If those patches of clover get disrupted, they can grow back in and recover fairly quickly too. So I don't see this as a problem. If I need to plant something, I can top kill the clover there, and that just increases fertility in that area for a moment. I plant whatever it is. The rest of the clover grows in, covers the ground. Everything's hunky-dory. Two different kinds of alfalfa. We've got the vernal alfalfa, which is a little bit more winter tolerant, and then I've got a bulldog alfalfa, which is a different variety. There's a whole bunch of different kinds of alfalfa that you can pick up, but these are the two that I'm using right now. The idea behind having multiple different things to fill the same niche, because I've got two different tillage root crops in here, daikons and sugar beets, right? I have multiple different clovers. I have multiple different alfalfas. Fennel and dill both really do pretty much the same thing for me as far as supporting the biome goes. The thing is, I don't know which one is going to wind up sprouting and germinating and growing in which location. Sometimes we'll have an area that might be just a little bit better for red clover than white clover, or a little bit better for the vernal alfalfa than the bulldog alfalfa. Or maybe this is a place where amaranth wants to grow, but maybe borage doesn't. And by mixing these seeds up and just overseeding with everything, we have the opportunity for the ideal conditions for each plant to express itself. The area where it's best to have carrots growing, that's where the carrots are going to take off and they're going to grow well. The areas that are better for a daikon radish to grow, that's where that one is going to take off and grow. So on and so forth. Since this would require an awful lot of micromanaging on my part to go, okay, I put the seed here and that one there and this one over here. No, this is a horrendous idea. Let's not do that. Instead, we just mix all of these seeds together. Mix them all together and scatter them across the keyboard. But there we go. That's a combination of a whole bunch of different seeds. But I noticed that there's a problem. Have you guys noticed what the problem is? You haven't noticed the problem yet, have you? Hi, Katie. Hi, Vicky. Oh, you're already here. 6 eggs is about per one. Oh, okay. You can see where I'm at. The problem is these seeds, this sugar beet seed, this sunflower seed here, these are fairly large, right? And typically, the way I like to distribute seeds whenever I've got a lot of little ones is to use one of these. And the holes here are big enough that most of those can come through. Well, most of these can come through because this is a mixture of the vernal alfalfa, the bulldog alfalfa, dill, fennel. I didn't have any carrot in here, unfortunately. Uh, White clover and red clover. So we had all of these. And these seeds are, oh, they're so tiny. They come out very easily out of this shaker. This shaker is great for broadcast sowing a bunch of little tiny seeds like that. But it's not great to mix with those larger seeds. So what I discovered is I actually have to do my seeding in two separate waves. Two separate ways, because the small seeds, that's fine. They can be in the shaker. They come out easy. They're nice and spread up or spread out. And then the larger seeds, I have to come back and I'll broadcast sow those by hand. And then after that, you just rake it through, water it in, and then keep watering it until everything starts to germinate. And that's whenever the fun happens, right? And I've already put biochar out in there. I've already charged up and put it out there. All of the biochar that I was in the midst of making and charging has gone into that strip. So that's what I've been up to this week. And now you guys know about it. If I mention it in upcoming videos, now you know. So, what have you guys been up to this week? Let me see. Vicky is saying, maybe I should add a little sugar to the water for my seedlings. That depends. Are they planted out where they're supposed to be, or are they still in the nursery setting? If they're still in the nursery setting, maybe not. But if you're putting them out in their final location, then yeah. Sometimes too much bacteria at one time on a young seedling can be overwhelming, or especially if instead of bacteria you get fungus growing, mold, something of that nature. Very damp environment seed starting. I have the hardest time starting seeds, by the way. I really do. That's why I really like just let's broadcast sow and see what grows. The things that want to grow there, the things that are happy growing there, they're going to grow there, and it's going to work. It's going to be a great chaotic mess, but it'll all work out. Heterodox talking about goldenrod. Yeah, goldenrod's a good herb. Some of these I do actually go and I find and I bring back, like the yellow dock. I went and found that one, brought it back. Mary got us some broadleaf plantain seed here. Yes, sir. So sow at 68 degrees. No generation in 3 to 4 weeks. Move to 29 to 39 degrees for 2 to 4 weeks. Oh, geez. Sounds like these guys need to have a cold period in order to properly germinate. So I might need to put them on a paper towel and soak them and stick them in the fridge or something for a while. Yeah. Brian says you got lots of wild sarsaparilla. Sarsaparilla! I have a sarsaparilla. I'm parched. Hugo's home says with us. Let's see. Here we go. Vicky's getting multiple varieties of bamboo, and it is particularly good for making biochar. Yep. This this stuff, wood vinegar, came from an outfit that was making biochar with bamboo, because it grows so fast, right? Grows so fast, makes great feedstock. Of course, sunflower stalks would make good feedstock too. So ideally, let's see, we get the sugar that we needed to grow our yeast or bacterial cultures, depending upon what we want to do. Yeast, if we're trying to move more towards forest environment, or bacteria if we want to move more towards a meadow or plains environment. That would be our secondary charging of effective microorganisms. Of course, the charcoal comes from the stalks of our woody plants, amaranth and safflower and sunflower. Nitrogen coming from alfalfa, buckwheat too, because it's an accumulator. But anyway, nitrogen coming from the alfalfa. Oh, buckwheat actually does have the ability to host mycorrhizal or has the ability to host the rhizobium bacteria as well as alfalfa and clover. But it kind of helps if there's already some of them present in the soil. So should all work well together. Heterodox is asking, would you scythe the field or mow paths for grass for future sheep? I guess it really depends upon how you want to approach this field once you've got it up and growing. Of course, I was talking about handling this in a way where you did not have to have grazing ruminants, because it's going to be in my front yard and I don't have grazing ruminants. But I can take care of some of these operations myself by macerating the plant material and introducing it to bacteria that will take care of the primary decomposition. I'm effectively being a surrogate for the ruminant, right? It's a little bit more involved doing it this way, but yeah, you can graze sheep on it, or run ducks through it. The ducks won't eat the carrot; they won't eat the Queen Anne's lace. They don't like it. I don't know how they're going to handle the sunflowers. They were nibbling away at them whenever they were young and tender and coming up, but after they've been established a little bit, I don't know. They may just leave them alone once they've gotten established. More things that we're going to find out in the near future. More things. Let me see. Yeah, do you remember alfalfa too? Little Rascals? Yeah. Right. Yep, that was Little Rascals and Our Gang. Long time ago. I watched those too. They were reruns, of course. I'm not that old. All right. Vigo's talking about, okay, we're talking about using a shaker for dispensing seeds. Says they're shaker with large holes. Yeah. I could, but then again, I'd have the problem now I have these large holes. They're big enough to let the big seeds out, but they're going to let so many more of the little ones out at the same time. Of course, I guess you could maybe adjust the ratio a bit to compensate for that. But we're only going to want so many daikon radish plants and so many sugar beets and so many buckwheat plants. So I don't know. Not really. If it's a persistent herbicide, plant an annual grass, one that, as long as you can harvest it before it gets to seed, it won't reseed itself and grow, and let it get to the point where it starts to form seed, and then cut it back and remove the grass from the property. Treat it like hazardous waste. unfortunately, which means that you lost all that fertility, but you can't keep it around anything but grasses. That's the unfortunate thing about persistent herbicide. Moon sprout is planting by the signs, apparently. Bush beans and empty spaces. Yeah. It's probably already growing here too. I just need to get out there and look for it. Yep, sunflowers and biochar. There we go. You get sunflowers to feed your birds. The birds take care of your pests. Sunflower stalks make biochar. You use your clover and alfalfa and buckwheat, along with amaranth and borage, all together to charge your biochar. Work that into your soil. Use your sugars to feed effective microorganisms. And all of that stuff should transform what would be otherwise lifeless clay into something that you could actually grow stuff in. We'll just have to see how quickly it takes hold. Hopefully, by next year, I'll be able to plant in that strip again. Hopefully. We shall see. I'll be doing a video on this pretty soon. Not the making of the charcoal itself, but how to go about charging it. That'll be coming up pretty soon because I need to make another batch. So I may as well turn on the camera and you can watch me make another batch. I'm cheating, by the way. I'm cheating because I don't have enough. Feedstock from last year. I took all of my organic matter and composted it. So I didn't set aside any corn stalks or sunflower stalks. We had nice big stalks from the amaranth that I could have saved for making charcoal out of, but I wasn't thinking about it. So instead, I've got charcoal, and we're just going to take the charcoal and crush it, weigh the amount that we've crushed, and then proportion out our compostables accordingly. And a few beds, did yard work. Shoosh, you're wearing me out already. I've been running around with a garden hose a lot. Because having got so many things that we've planted in as ground cover, I have to keep them watered until they germinate and grow. Once they're up and they can get the roots down, they can take care of looking for water in the soil themselves up to a little extent. That and all that vegetation helps keep the water in as well. Lots of roots in the ground. That's what it takes. But up until then, it's garden hose, and it's a lot of running around with the garden hose right now. But we don't have much grass left. Very, very little grass. But are actually saying the dock and dandelions are doing well. I've got a really nice dock to show you guys. It's the one that I harvested from during the winter. I believe I was showing off the biochar stove, and I did a little dish using dock greens. And the one that I harvested the greens from, they came back, and the plant is now twice the size of all the other dock plants. It's pretty impressive. It's like the plant says, "Hey, if you're gonna eat me, I'm just gonna grow more of me, and I bet I can outgrow your ability to eat me." And it's right. It is absolutely right. I cannot eat that much dock. Can't do it. We actually have reached a point where we have more food than we can handle. It's amazing. Um, I wonder if meadow rue is anything like Syrian rue. Syrian rue you can use to get rid of parasites, but it's got a couple other uses. Um, Butterflies like it too. Yeah, the ducks are indeed very much like little pigs. They if you leave them in one spot long enough, they'll get down, they'll tear the roots of everything out, and they'll eat the dirt even to get whatever they can out of it. They're a little bit messy like that. But if you have a spot that you absolutely need to get the roots out of, leave the ducks concentrated on it, and that will take care of most of I don't know Congan grass. Pardon me, nut sedge, Bermuda, stuff like that. Once the ducks start digging things up and eating the roots, that'll take care of whatever invasive plant problems you've got. Only pigs would be better at it. And this is also true. Very, very different tastes of food. The things that ducks don't eat is the I'm growing a longer and longer list as we go. Uh, umbelliferous plants like the no this way, yeah, Queen Anne's lace, wild carrot, that sort of thing. They don't eat them. Violets, they don't eat those. I don't know why. Alliums, they don't eat. We're gonna find out what else. I'm gonna see if they'll eat a sweet potato. They might. They might not. They might nibble at it. We'll see. If they have enough food, in any case, they aren't going to tear up the roots of everything. So it's just if you want to get rid of the roots, keep them on an area concentrated and don't let them off of it until they start to churn it, and then you can move them on. Yeah, I could use two different shakers, or just grab it by the handful and throw it. That seems to be working too. I'm sitting here putting some English on you. You got to flip your wrist over like whoosh, whoosh. Mary wanted me to say something about the parable of the sower. I'm like, I guess you could, but yes, bamboo is grass. And Mary's saying there's a row of redbuds growing right by the clay. Well, they're growing, Mary, they're growing in the clay because redbuds can do that. That's why they're a great side of the highway tree, because you can stick them in clay and they go, I don't care, I'll grow here. They don't mind. And you go, what? There's no water? Oh, I don't mind. I don't need that much. And they'll keep on growing. They're hardy plants. Let's see. Katie figure out how to disappear the backside fat. Rake and shovel does amazing things. Is that where it all went? I'm told I have no backside anymore, so I guess that's what happened. You should be able to spell them before too awful long. Probably by the end of May, early June, you should be able to spell them. Shoot, you might even be able to spell them now. Yeah, grass great for compost if it hasn't been sprayed. Also, watch out for leaves. If there's an awful lot of yard waste, if you're gathering leaves from places to compost to make garden soil out of, just want to double check and make sure they're not spraying nasty stuff on their grass, and including their grass with the leaves and the yard waste. That can happen. Not around here though. Nobody can afford it. Nobody can afford to spray anything on their yard, so they're all good. Um, just show up, say, "Hey, would you like me to get rid of your leaves for you?" And hey, look at that, we got free potting soil. Heard about some advertised grass for sale? Yeah, I wonder sometimes that somebody drives by and looks at the grow lights in the back room and sees that purple glare back there. What do you think he's growing? What do you think he's growing? Yeah. Tomatoes, peppers. I like growing vegetables and starting them indoors works. I have grow lights for that. Brian's asking if I have to dig it out yearly. Probably more than once a year in actuality. Um, I'm working right now on just getting the ducks accustomed to nesting in particular areas. I couldn't get them trained to a box. They just found the corners that they like, and that's where they're going. And I've got a bale of hay that I keep up under a tarp, or not hay, bale of straw that I keep up under a tarp, and I can pull one or two bats out at a time and break that up for the areas that they nest in. That keeps the eggs more or less clean. And then there's a little bit of litter on the floor, and if it ever gets to the point where it starts to get stinky, then I can just take the manuring fork, scoop that out, throw more down in there. But most of the straw is actually in the spot where they build their nests because they try to build clutches of eggs. If I'm not careful, if I don't collect the eggs for a day or two, a couple of these ducks will get broody. And it's a sad thing to watch a duck waste away to nothing trying to sit on eggs that are never going to hatch because we don't have any drakes. Doesn't make any difference to them. They go, I laid that egg. I'm going to sit on it until I've got ducklings. Heterodox talking about can't plant anymore unless auto irrigation is installed because chlorinated water. Oh, yes. Yep. I'm fortunate. I live so far away from the water treatment plant that I have to boil my water. I don't have to, but typically I do. Turn it into coffee and tea. This wasn't boiled, but got so much ascorbic acid and citric acid in it that I don't think any bacteria could survive. This is this I believe the same bottle that I had last week and the week before and the week before and the week before and the week before. I've had this bottle for a while. No, actually, this is a newer one. Yeah, the one from like 8 weeks ago, I took the wrapper off of, and then I turned it into a fish trap. That's why I still have it. And I'm still using it. Okay. Yeah, it's great having ducks. Absolutely great because they foul their water, and you'd think that this was a bad thing. It's like 5 minutes ago, I had nice clean water for you guys, and now you've messed it up because almost the first thing they do after they get up there, everybody gets up there, gets a drink, they like blow their noses out and everything, like a whole bunch of Vikings around a bowl, right? They're nasty. Ducks are just nasty. But as soon as they've done that, they jump into it, and as soon as their butts hit the water, they let go. So by the end of the day, they splashed half the water out, and they've completely and totally fouled it. So by the end of the day, you've got liquid fertilizer that you can just put into a bucket, take to the next spot in your rotation, add that, and just keep working around your property until you've hit everywhere that needs it with liquid fertilizer. And that's just, it's built into taking care of the ducks. They produce fertilizer for you, and you get fertilizer and you water at the same time. So it's fertigation. Now all you need to do is find a way to streamline that, and you're set. And of course, I've been thinking about how I want to streamline using the ducks and fertigation. A part of it is we get a pond. It allows me to dump the solids off the bottom of the pond on a regular basis. That way, I can harvest that organic matter, put it out where it can do work for me, and the ducks can have more or less clean water because it's going to be harder to foul up, 300 or 400 gallons at a time. They'll foul it up, no doubt, but it'll change it to maybe a once a week chore instead of an everyday chore. Yeah, 4 ducks is a lot of ducks. I had 12. I managed to give 4 away to a fellow that could use a steady source of protein, um, and that leaves me with 8, which is still more eggs than I can eat. But it's not so many ducks that I can't move them around the property and let them graze, and they can get most of their diet satisfied by foraging. That's a good question. Would you have wild ducks try to settle in? We've got wild geese right down the road here. Let's see. The direction I'm looking, which is north, I'm looking north right now. There's the KD Trail, which is the old KD Railroad line. On the other side of that, there's a creek that connects to the Arkansas River over that way. I'm pointing at her elbow, but there's a green screen. On the other side of the green screen, there's actually a wall. Beyond the wall, there's the real world. And further that way, there's the Arkansas River. And over this direction, this creek, I think it's called Joe Creek, connects. So that goes up and around there. What were we talking about? Oh, yes. Geese. There's a sandbar in the middle of Joe Creek. And Brendan was out there fishing for largemouth bass. That's Folk Family Adventures. If you guys want to see what Brendan is up to out fishing and so forth. But he was fishing for largemouth bass, and they were just all around the sandbar. And in the middle of the sandbar, for a brief moment while he's fishing, you can see Mama Goose popping up, and she's got a clutch of eggs that she's sitting on there. So we're going to have little goslings paddling around in largemouth bass infested waters nearby. They may fall prey to largemouth bass, but it would be a violation of federal law to go and rescue them. Such is the world we live in. But anyway, it's quite possible that sometime in the near future, Brendan might have some video of little tiny goslings while he's out fishing. Anywho. Yeah. Oh yeah. We had herons at the pond I had growing up. Lots and lots of herons. Big birds. First time I saw one, I thought I was seeing a pterodactyl. Because they had the broad wings out right here and the feet trailing behind it, and it's got the crest on its head, and then it landed and I was like, oh, that's not a pterodactyl, that's a great blue heron. I don't see a whole lot of those anymore. They still exist, but we don't see them as much, at least not here. Saw a bunch of pelicans not too long ago. That was wild. I guess they were spawning. No, I don't know. What is it called whenever a bunch of pelicans take to the air and fly around and decide which boys like which girls and which girls like which boys? They were doing that. There's a population of them that lives out by one of the lakes here, and they just got way up in the skies to the point where we're miles away from that lake, but we could see them very, very clearly. Ducks are like perpetual toddlers. They're perpetual waddlers. Waddle, 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 waddle. I wouldn't call it a farm exactly. Mostly weeds in the dream. Shoot. Hey, that's what we got here. It's a bunch of weeds. But it's not whether or not you've got weeds that's the problem. It's whether or not you've got the right weeds. If you've got the right weeds, then you've got it made. So if I've got things like buckwheat growing like weeds, if I've got alfalfa and clover growing like weeds, if having too much dill or too many carrots or too many sugar beets is one of the problems that I can count. It's like, oh no, woe is me. I have too many sugar beets. Whatever will I do? Oh drat. I have too many sunflowers. Whatever will I do? These are problems I think I can handle. Uh, Biggie sharp, yeah. He. Mary Susan. Did Mary Susan talk to text? Oi. Yeah, no geese. How in the world would we make hard boiled goose eggs anyway? And geese eat a lot. They eat everything. Ducks are a little bit more manageable. Woohoo! Joe coming in late. Coming in late. Yeah, we're almost done, Joe. Dun, dun, dun. Blue herons, you mean, maybe? Oh. A couple times, huh? Well, yeah, you're right on the lake, so you should be able to see them if you've got them at all. They'll be nearby. Yeah. Um, there's a spot in Rockaway Beach off of Lake Taneycomo that's like that. The one spot where they've got a park right next to the lake is just it's you can't play there. It's wall to wall goose poo every year. And they're migratory geese. So you can't harass them, so they just land there and they walk all over the park. The grass is the greenest grass you're ever gonna find, but nobody wants to play on it. Anyway, well, guys, it's been about an hour. I just wanted to share with you what we've been doing here. Of course, my crazy chicken scratch plan. What is that? Some 14 different types of plants, or 14 different, distinctly different plants that we can crop all together in an area, and the combination thereof, with or without some additional manipulation, should be capable of taking clay soil and turning it into good soil, and that way we grow our inputs instead of having to purchase them and import them all. Guys, that's all for tonight. Thank you very much for joining me. I know you could have been anywhere tonight, so it's very, very, very wonderful of you to come in and join us tonight. I'm going to call it a night and go get some sleep before I pass out in front of you. That's all I've got for you. As always, if you found the video informative or entertaining, you know what to do. I will catch you next time. But until then, get out there and get growing. Good night, everybody.